Hello. So today's topic are pronouns. And pronouns are basically words that replace someone's name in a conversation. And now, not everyone uses pronouns, and we'll get to that later. But the most common pronouns are he, him, she, her, and they, them. But there are more. There are neopronouns, which are still pronouns, but they're a smaller subset. And I don't know how to pronounce these properly, but I will try my best. There's Zer, Zezem, and Fe or Fair. I probably am pronouncing that last one wrong. I'm not positive, and so bear with me. And these little dudes are commonly used by gender non-conforming people or non-binary people. Excuse me, sir. I'm so sorry. Ugh. Sticky notes are very hard to manage. But that's okay. We're trying. And so, but there's also an important note, and this is the other thing of not everyone has pronouns. Some individuals only want to use their name as a way of identifying. They don't use any pronouns. And so with that, here comes our next thing. Excuse me. And that is, where do you use pronouns? You use them everywhere. See, in most conversations, you're always going to use a pronoun, especially socially. But even a little dragon can have a pronoun. Like this, we're going to say in this scenario, is an inanimate object because it's an inanimate object. We can say its wings are gold, and its wings, its would be a pronoun. And so, yeah, we're going to put them back over there. And so with that, this little arrow, there we go. And so we are down to an important question of why pronouns matter. And I have located 4 reasons for why pronouns matter. And reason number 1 is it affirms identity. This shows respect, compassion, and kindness to the person that you are using correct pronouns to. This should also work if you use their preferred name with, but we'll talk about that later, especially with that important yellow note of they only use their name. But that's for later talk. And then 2, it reduces mental health risks. And so usually the people, and we'll get to this later, that especially have mental health risks along with specifically tied to their pronouns are transgender people. And transgender people we will talk about later. But for now, just remember, use the correct pronouns. And because it reduces depression and anxiety. Because imagine for a second that you're being called something you aren't. And it could be a little example we'll get with some dragons. Because dragons are great. We're going to move that over. So we have this gold dragon, this green dragon, and this iguana, because iguanas are cool. And this iguana, they use he, him pronouns. So instead of I would say they, I would say he. So he is very happy. He's going on great with his life. But this little dragon, they use they, them pronouns. And they are just talking to him. They're just going. And she uses she, her pronouns. She says, well, you're not a they, them. That's not how it works. Like, that is English. Like, you can't refer to one person as a they, them. Yes, you can. But that's another topic. But to make this simpler in a way that's not pronouns so we can get a good example, we could say the gold dragon here says, you're not green. You're not green, and you don't have spikes. Obviously, this guy's green, and this guy has spikes. Well, they have green, and this guy has spikes. And that little thing, notice how I did not over-apologize. I corrected myself and moved on. Now, we are going to talk about misgendering, accidental and purposeful, in another little bit. Well, obviously, they are green, and he has spikes, little horns. And so there are two ways that I have recognized people react to being misgendered. First, they are going to be like, hey, I'm obviously green, like that you're wrong. Like, you're just blatantly wrong. And the green little iguana, he's going to be like, well, it's just, that's who I am. Like, your beliefs are your beliefs, but I am green, and I can prove it. Because you can prove your gender identity to people. Because we'll talk about that later, but gender is a social construct. Oops, I'm knocking that out of frame. Gender is a social construct. It is different from sex, and we will talk about that in another video. And so they just, because they're just kind of hurt with being called out as something they're not. Because like, oh, you're not a green dragon, you're a gold dragon like me. They are obviously not. And it low-key hurts. Like, hey, no, I'm not. Stop calling me what I'm not. Because they are not gold. And he's like, hey, I do have spikes. They're right there. She's like, no, you actually have red horns on your head. Obviously, he does not have red horns on his head. But he has red cheeks and a red little beard. And so it could be a misunderstanding from this gold dragon that he has red horns. Because they assume. Now, assuming is something every human does. It's just how we think. And in the society we've been raised in, assuming gender is very, very common. And it's not exactly wrong. Try not to do it, but it's not exactly wrong. But like, with a dragon, you have no clue of their gender because it's theirs. With a person, you have no clue of their gender because gender is not something that you base on sex. It's a social construct, which is based on the person that's using it. And so you can't exactly just call out, oh, well, you have this and this and this, so you're obviously a girl. No, they are they, them. They're non-binary. And this little iguana, he's a dude. But he, has these spots, and so she thinks, oh, you have these red spots on your cheeks, so those are red horns, which means you don't have green spikes, you have red horns. Because in her perception, she was raised to think, oh, only green spikes appear when they don't have red horns. So she recognizes red horns and thinks, oh, you don't have green spikes, even though he clearly does. So that is just a representation of misgendering. But back on topic, because I got a little off. But the main point is it reduces mental health when you misgender people. But it reduces mental health risks when you say the proper ones that the person uses. Oh, I'm sorry, you use they, them. You are non-binary. Yes, that is correct. And you use he, him. Yes, and another thing to say, oh, you are a green dragon, and you do have green spikes. Yes, and yes. So there's that. And the next reason is just a very important reason in my opinion, because I did this a little earlier. It prevents misgendering, and we just saw an accurate representation of misgendering, in other words. And that was when the green dragon was called a gold dragon, and the iguana was told that he did not have these spikes. They obviously do. They have the attributes that they said they didn't, and that is misgendering. And so the last thing, because misgendering is harmful and invalidating, as it can severely hurt someone of mental health. And the last reason is support. And so using correct pronouns improves relationships with people because you build trust, you build a relationship with them. It shows companionship and compassion, especially in like a workplace or a friendship, that it just connects on another level, and that is very healthy. And starts a good first impression. If you just meet someone and they said, oh, my pronouns are he, him, and you respect those pronouns, that's instantly just like, hey, he over there, we're going to use him. If he introduces himself and says, hey, I use he, him pronouns, and this little guy, it's like, oh, cool, and they just say, I use she, her pronouns, and she's just going, then this guy's going to be like, oh, they use my correct pronouns for me, so I'm really happy, like, this person has earned my respect, because using correct pronouns is basic human respect. And now for the unfortunate part. Oh, wait, hold on. Nope. We have not gotten to the other part. And so there are several genders, but, no, my marker. But there is transgender. And transgender is an umbrella term for persons whose gender identity or gender expression or behavior does not conform to the typically associated with the sex to which they are assigned at birth. And I got this information, specifically the quote, from the American Psychological Association. And there's also, and this I just Googled, but this is cisgender. And that is a person whose gender identity matches with their birth sex, because sex and gender are very different, and that is another video. And those are who usually use pronouns. But with a transgender person, sometimes they're not out to people. And outing means they tell other people their gender identity or sexuality. That could be coming out. But we have context. Now context, we could have, we're going to get some different peoples. So, this is one of my favorites. Look how cool she looks. So we're going to say is transgender. So she's transgender. She was born as a boy, but she identifies as a girl, so she's transgender. She has not come out to, come here, her friend Joe. We're going to call this Joe. And so Melissa, that's the transgender girl, has not come out to Joe. And so Melissa goes over here, and she tells her friend Bob, and she says, hey, I actually use she, her pronoun, and I prefer the name Melissa. However, the context of this situation of him being around, of Joe being like, hey, I'm here, she's not yet, she is not ready to come out to Joe. And so she asked Bob, hey, can you not call me Melissa and she, her around Joe, because I haven't come out yet. But Bob is going to say, the main question, which I think is very important to ask whenever someone comes out to you, is, in which situations would you like me to prefer for what pronouns? So Melissa can answer, when it's just you and me and our friend Jordan, we can say she, her, because I've only come out to y'all two. Because when someone comes out to you and they say, hey, please use in context, don't use my preferred name and preferred pronouns around someone, that is them trusting you with their preferred name and pronouns. That's them coming out to you. And that, in my opinion, is a pretty high honor. Like, someone trusted you to accept their true selves. And that's pretty great. And so Bob and Jordan are just like, oh, yeah, we won't use she, her, and Melissa around Joe. Okay? Yay. That'll happen. So around Joe. And Joe he could be agreeing with the transgenderism. He could not, and we're going to talk about that later. But he just doesn't know. And there's many reasons that someone will not trust you enough to tell you about them being transgender. And with the context of that, we're going to talk about a few examples. And so, excuse me. We're going to put them over there. And that could be location. Not everywhere is actually not anywhere. There's going to be 100% support for being transgender. That's just the sad truth. But there could also be family members. There could be school, church, just out in public, because there could be like a state could be known for not agreeing to one term or identity and just like, oh no, that's like the overall population doesn't support it. And that could be scary for a transgender person because there are, unfortunately, hate crimes, purposeful bullying, and just really horrible things happening to transgender people because of, it's called transphobia. And transphobia and homophobia we'll get to in another video because it's very, very important to talk about. But, so remember the context of where you use pronouns. And then, and then the last thing, which is very, very sad, is the misgendering. Some people are going to purposely misgender transgender people. That is the unfortunate truth, but that is how the world works, unfortunately. But with spreading this video and informing people about what pronouns are, and in transgender, and there's one more thing. No, I already forgot that. Never mind. Ignore me for a minute. And so the important thing is that people are going to misgender transgender people. And this could be for several reasons. There could be they just forget, like, oh, sorry, I forgot that you prefer these pronouns. And so we're going to bring back our little thing. Here's Melissa, and here's Jordan. So Jordan is going to be talking to Bob. And Bob's just like chilling out. And they're just like, oh yeah, Melissa, he. And Bob is going to politely point out, because Jordan, also give him a minute, but Jordan just keeps talking like, oh yeah, he was doing this and this. And Jordan doesn't catch himself. And that's okay. We're only human. Well, they're dragon, but they're only human. And so Bob's going to be like, hey, wait, Melissa actually uses she, her pronouns. And as a simple act of human respect and dragon respect, it's going to say, oh, sorry, Melissa, I meant she, and continue. They correct themselves, they apologize, and they continue. Most transgender people are not going to like when you over apologize. And there are a few phrases that you should not use because they're just disrespectful. And so I personally like Jordan, and I don't want to use him as a bad guy in this. But we're going to bring in someone a little mean, because this is just what they say. Well, I knew, and we're going to say Melissa's dead name or birth name. There are several other words for this. I personally use the term dead name, and we're going to say Melissa's dead name is Steven. I don't know why Steven, but Steven. And so this little dude is going to say, well, I've known Steven since he was a boy, so I can still call him a boy. No. And this also depends on the transgender person, but in Melissa's case, it's going to be like, actually, no, I prefer you call me she, her, and Melissa, because that is my gender identity. And so, my cat is going nuts. And so this little guy is just like, oh, but I've known you for so long, it's really hard to change. I would appreciate it if you put an effort into our friendship to call me by my preferred name and pronouns. So this dragon's gonna be like, okay, I'll try that, yeah. So Jordan, they're all friends. And this dragon's just gonna be like, well, and this is what we're gonna get. Remember this little yellow dragon. I'm gonna use him in another thing. His name is going to be Davis. Yeah, he's Davis. Davis is gonna be like, well, I just don't agree with that. I don't agree with it. And it's okay to not agree with everything because it doesn't align with your beliefs. That's fine. But don't, because how this situation is going to be really awkward. And it's even worse in families. But we're going to talk about that later. And so Melissa is just kind of not going to talk to Davis because she does not want to be disrespected by Davis's misgendering, because that's not nice. So she's not going to really talk to Davis. She's not going to be mean to Davis. She's not going to just be really rude to Davis, because Melissa is just focusing on being herself right now. And she's talking to Bob just like, hey, what's up? Nice. So they're all talking and they're all happy. And he's just going to go away because he does not agree with this form of lifestyle. So he's not going to be there. And so another thing that are a few things to say is just like, well, why are you choosing to be transgender and using these? And the point thing is, transgenderism is not a choice. It's just how people are, some people. And it's, instead of questioning why they do this, question what you should be doing to help them more comfortable, because this is a new reality. Most of the time it's new. This is a new reality to this person. Like, they just realized this fully, or they're trusting you enough to tell you, and so you should be respectful to them. My cat is going nuts. And so you should just be nice. And don't say oh, well, you'll always be a boy to me, you'll always be a girl, like, whatever. She will always be a girl because she identifies as a girl. And so he's like, oh, well, you'll always be a boy to me, like, that's just how it works. And so Melissa personally doesn't like how she's being treated, so she's not going to be around him that much. And this is not, in my personal opinion, a bad move. When someone is being rude to you or doing something you don't like, it is okay to just distance themselves. That's another boundary that we talked about in the last video. And so there's that. It's just a few things not to say. Don't say it's based on sex, because it's simply not. It's just, that's a fact. Gender and sex are not the same thing. And we'll talk about that in another video. And so Davis is not being very kind, so we're just going to put him out there. These guys are still very good, but we're going to put them out there. So that is the thing. And if you do misgender people, and it's because of your beliefs or whatnot, do expect that they're probably going to distance themselves from you, because it's just not something they want to be around. Like, if you were called something you don't want to be called all the time, you're not really gonna stick around the person who's calling you that. And this is really hard in families, in schools, church, a lot of places. It's really difficult to get this respect, because that's just the world we live in. But with videos like this and people like you who are learning, and just, I want to say thank you for watching these videos and learning about this, because this is how we build a future we want, is learning about these things. You're doing great. See you later.